Hey guys, Wasfreak here to take a look at my recently acquired Mosin Nagant M38 Carbine. Got this in a trade and I'm super excited to finally have one of these. Been after one of these literally for years. So story behind the trade, I had a Colombian 30-06 Mauser that I traded for. I took it to the range once and I found out that it was incredibly expensive for me to shoot. The cheapest ammunition I could find for that 30-06 Mauser was around $15.99 per box of 20, and just that cost adds up quick. Now I could have chambered it got a chamber insert for a 7.62 NATO, but then that would have thrown off the ballistics, the sights would have been accurate, and all that stuff. In addition, the rifle, the sights, I really didn't like it. It had a VZ24 style sights, and the sights only started out at 300 meters or yards, which point of aim would be off pretty badly, I assume, at a typical shooting distance of 50 or 100 yards. So there's that issue as well. So basically the cost, and I just didn't like the sights. I'd initially gotten that rifle for my SS kit, but and I got this lovely Sturmgewehr 44. So that's why I did the trade. Found a guy kind of up north, I'd say. He came down, met me, traded with me, and he gave me this beautiful, all-matching Ichevsk M38 Carbine, and about 9 boxes of this really weird and unique Czechoslovakian training ammunition. So let's just dive into a review here. Now, so this is the M38 Carbine, developed in 1938 as an alternative to the very long at 48 inches Mosin Nagant M9130. This was designed primarily for non-combat troops, such as supply troops, artillery, troops that wouldn't necessarily be fighting on the front line, and wouldn't need very full-size M9130. This is definitely a handier to carry around. Now, versus the M9130, this has a length overall of about 40 inches versus 48 inches for the Mosin Nagant M9130 and previous long variants. This has a 20-inch barrel versus a 28-inch barrel for the M9130, making this significantly more handy. Now, one major difference beside the overall length versus the 9130 is that the M38s were designed specifically without a bayonet and designed so that they could not accept the standard bayonet. The barrel does not extend as far beyond the front sight post, so you cannot mount the spiked bayonet. Because of the lack of the bayonet, the Soviets developed the M44 Carbine, which is essentially identical to the M38, except that it has a folding bayonet. The Type 53 that I had, that I made a few videos on and shot, is essentially an M44, with the exception of having a slightly different bayonet, and then also the wood for the stock was different as well. So these were produced from 1939 up until 1945. Now, these were produced while the M44 was in production. Again, can't say why. Maybe they just decided to just keep on rolling. But who knows? So again, this is a very, very nice rifle. It's all matching numbers. It's a 1943 Izzy. Unfortunately, this does not have an original M38 stock. This has an M44 stock, as evidenced by the cutout here for the side-folding spike bayonet. This is it's very nice. One reason why I've been wanting to get one of these, other than just being I'm poor and I can't afford a semi-auto right now, is that it balances really well. The balance is really, really awesome without that spike bayonet on the front. Now I know you can remove it and have the bayonet lug, well, not lug, but the attachment cut off and whatever. but that's a lot of extra work, and then it just makes the gun look ugly as hell. So this is nice. This is pretty much the same length as an AK until I can afford to get one. I got one of these shooter pads, recoil pads on there because these little carbines, they kick like hell. So, you know, gonna see how well this works at the range. It shouldn't be too bad. Bolt seems to be pretty good. Have some issues with the extractor grabbing onto the rim of the cartridge, but you know, it's your standard fare. It shoots the 7.62 by 54 rimmed cartridge. This is some of my ammunition that I actually just found laying around. I probably got about 15 rounds of this stuff. So definitely gonna get more ammunition for this rifle. Is a steal. You can get the cheapo ammunition for about $8 a box, you know, which is considerably less expensive than 30-06. So just this rifle, it's top loading. It's got a stripper clip guide milled into the receiver. So you just take your stripper clip, you got to put it in the right way. There's a definite top and bottom in the way that you load the cartridges versus like a Mauser or an M1 Garand. So you got to make sure your cartridges are stacked like that. Place them in the rifle, then you grab the top round and use it to push down the other ones. And then you have to manually take out your stripper clip versus the Mauser, where you can just close the bolt, take out your stripper clip, you know, throw it to the side, and then there you go. And just, you know, standard bolt action. You can see there's that extractor issue. It's a little bit sticky. It doesn't want to grab onto the cartridge every time, but that's a pretty simple issue that I can work out. And then a feature that I like about the Mosin versus the Mausers is that you have this trap door. So, you know, if you get rim lock or whatever, you can open up this trap door and then the rounds fall out of there. Whereas with the Mauser, there's usually like a little push button, or it's held there with the screw. So you've either got to manually cycle the action, or you've got to sit there and fiddle with the little floor plate with the button or the screw, and then the floor plate, the whole spring will fall out. It looks really ugly, and it's a pain to get the rounds out of a Mauser. So it's one feature I like about the Mosin Nagant. Now it does rattle a little bit, but shouldn't be too bad. So, you know, it's got a straight bolt handle. It's not too bad. I actually find the straight bolt handle is easier for me to use, given that I shoot left-handed. So no drawbacks there. The only other downside to the Mosin, I would say, is the safety. So you've got to have the rifle cocked, and then the safety, it's this weird knob type deal. You pull it back and to the side. I guess, well, with some practice I can take getting used to, you know, versus like something like the lever type safety on the Mauser, or the simple lever safety on a Lee Enfield. Now I'd say those are much better. But I mean, I guess, you know, it takes practice, just like learning the heel release on a P38 or, you know, a CZ52 versus a thumb release like on a 1911. It just takes practice. So let's see if I can show the bore off here. The bore on this rifle is mint. I would have to say, in my opinion, this rifle is either unfired, which is I'd say that's probably unlikely, or very lightly used. Again, these were used by a second line and rear echelon troops, so not surprised if this wasn't used a whole lot. So I don't know. There's the bore right there. Again, it is clean. Like, I mean, no pitting whatsoever between the rifling. It is smooth. It is nice, and just love these Mosins. They're super simple. Again, one reason why I got this is I love the Russian style sights. I find they're super easy to see and to acquire a target with. versus the Mauser. The sights were really low and really small, and then they only started out at 300 meters or yards. What I was actually able to find for the Mosin was a shooting table that someone was nice enough to translate from Russian to English, basically showing the results of Soviet studies during World War II at the Mosin Nagant. So it shows different shooting distances, how to lead targets, how to estimate the size of a man and basically estimate distance. If your sights are in a certain setting, how to adjust the sights, basically do some Kentucky windage to hit your target, different penetrations through different materials. Just an awesome shooting table. I mean, that is absolutely indispensable to any Mosin owner. Just, the results, I believe it was, according to the picture, it's from 1947. So a comprehensive, study of experiences during World War II and probably even World War I and the Russo-Japanese War. So just happy I was able to get my hands on that. But just super excited to finally get one of these after I'd say I've been trying to get one for about wanting one for at least 4 to 5 years. So the price on these and just Mosin in general has gotten absolutely ridiculous. So I'd say, I traded pretty good, and the value on this is only going to go up, especially all matching, with it being in good condition as it is. The value is only going to go up, but this is something that I'm going to definitely keep for probably the rest of my life, as these are pretty hard to find these days for any sort of decent price, or just in general. You got the M44s floating around there, the Type 53s, which are, most of them are in garbage condition. The one that I got was absolutely horrible. No bluing. Stock looked like someone had left it in a pond or a lake. Just absolutely awful. I mean, you can clean them up and everything, but there's nothing like owning a genuine Russian M38 Soviet. And this one, from what I can tell, seems to be pretty free of any machining marks. Typically your Mosins will be very roughly made. I had a 1942 Tula M9130, extremely roughly made. Tool marks all over the receiver, all over the stock, and then the bolt was very roughly made as well. Just different parts of the bolt, actually quite hideous. So I had a 1942 Tula, very roughly made. I had a 1940 Tula as well, and you can definitely tell the difference there between the pre-war and wartime Mosin Nagants. But this is a 1943. I'm going to show a close-up here of the receiver. It's actually pretty well made, at least from what I can tell. So I'm gonna, shoot it sometime later, and then if I have problems with it, gonna take it down to the best gun shop here in San Antonio, Dom's Gun Shop. They've done work for me before. They actually made my PU sniper that I had a few years back, and they worked on my CZ52 and my previous Mosin. So if I have any problems with this baby at the range, I'm definitely going to take it to Don's and get it fixed. But definitely, if you are a Mosin person, it's definitely something you'll want to get your hands on. If you can't get one of these, get an M44. But definitely as like a survivalist rifle, or just a decent rifle to have, a good enough rifle. I'm not going to get 1 MOA groups or anything like that. It's going to be good enough for shooting up to 300 yards. So hope you guys liked the video. If you haven't seen my range video where I shoot the Sturmgewehr 44, my P38, and a few other guns, AK-74 and M1 Garand, make sure to check that out. So as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching.